So when you discovered your sexuality, let me ask about love.
Mm.
Far too personal of a question to ask a Brit, but what was that like? And broadly speaking, what's the role of love in the human condition? Sex and love. And for you personally, discovering that you were, and maybe telling the world that you were gay.
I'm on very perilously personal. I do actually have a sort of rule that I don't talk about my personal life, but
rules are meant to be broken.
Okay, well, I'll break it a little bit.
Okay.
The one of the ways in which growing up and realizing you're gay differs from growing up and being straight is that it's almost inevitable that your first passions will be unrequited.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that. Yeah.
Now, that's not to say, I mean, there's plenty of unrequited love among young men for young women for young men. There's plenty of, that. But it's almost inevitable if you're gay that your first, passions will be totally unrequited because the odds are that the person in question will not be gay.
So the experience of love is mostly heartbreak.
It's heartbreak and disappointment.
That heartbreak can be beautiful too.
It's
formative.
Well, again, it comes back to the thing of if you're a writer or something, because you can always do something with it. That's why all writers are sort of not to be trusted.
Yeah, I didn't trust you the moment you walked in here.
No, I mean, it's a famous problem with writers because you always think, well, I could use that. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous thing, and all writers should.
It's almost like a drug, right?
No, it's not like a drug. It's the fear that all things, even the greatest suffering, it could be material.
What's the danger in that exactly? That seeing the material in the human experience, you don't experience it fully.
You don't experience it fully, and you might be using it. I had a friend who wrote a poem about a friend who died in a motorcycle accident in Sydney in the 60s. And he said he knew that the moment he was told about his friend's death, a tiny bit of him thought, I could use this for a poem. And he did, and the poem was wonderful. But there's always that slight guilt for writers of, am I going to use that? Anyhow, that's a divergence.
Life is full of guilty pleasures, and I think that's one of them. Because if you feel that guilt, really what you're doing is you're capturing that moment, and you're going to impact the lives of many, many people by writing about that moment, because it's going to stimulate something that resonates with those people because they had similar kinds of memories about a loss and a passion towards somebody that they had to lose. So guilt there is a good sign, perhaps.
A more obvious perhaps problem is reporting from war zones or bad places and wanting to find bad stories because it's useful. And there is a definite guilt you get from that sort of thing. Like the worse the situation, the more useful. And anyhow, no, so that's sort of the only difference that happens from growing up being gay. And it means that certainly in my generation, most gay men came to sexual or romantic maturity later. And there's lots of explanations of that, maybe being one of the reasons for perceived or otherwise promiscuity among gay men, which is, I think, more easily persuaded by the fact that gay men behave like men would if women were men.
That's one explanation, but it's both a feature and a bug that you come to sexual flourishing later in life.
Mm-hmm.
That could be seen as in the trajectory of human life. That could be a positive or a negative.
Yeah.
But what's broadly speaking is the role of love in the human condition, Douglas?
Well, it's the nearest thing we have to finding the point.
What is the point? What's the meaning of life? Let's go there.
So what's the meaning is a hard one, of course. Where is the meaning is slightly easier. And I'd say that everyone can find that. You gravitate towards the places you find meaning. Now, there's a conservative answer to this, which is quite useful, and it's certainly more useful than any others, because the conservative answer is find meaning where people have found it before, which is a very, very good answer.
Yeah.
If your ancestors have found meaning in a place of worship or a particular canon of work, go there, because it's been proven by time to be able to give you the goods. much more sensible than saying, "Hey, I don't know, discover new ways of meaning." But love is probably the nearest thing we can have to the divine on earth, and of course, the problem of what type of love we mean is an issue.
Well, that goes to the fact that you don't like definitions anyway.
I do like definitions. I just they need to be pinned down. But let's not go there at the moment, because it's
Let's not pin down love at the moment.
well, no, because as you know, I mean, because of the different varieties of love and the fact that we have one word for it in our culture, and that it means an awful lot of things, and we don't delineate it.
Yeah.
Well, but let's say human love with the greatest fulfillment in sexual fulfillment in sexual love with another person is probably the greatest intimation you can have of what might otherwise only be superseded by divine love. And it's the sense that all young lovers have, which is that they've just walked through the low door in the garden and found themselves in bliss. And that there's a beautiful, beautiful poem of, can I read it to you?
Yes, please.
I'll try to find it. There's a beautiful poem of Philip Larkin's, which slightly says what I'm trying not to duck your question by referring to other people, but
maybe that's the best way to answer the question.
Could be.
Is to read a poem.
So there's a poem by Philip Larkin called "High Windows," which is remarkable because he came to sexual. He was straight, but he had a rather unhappy sex life. But he came to sexual fruition in the 40s and 50s, and with all the hell that involved. And he took what I regard as being a really remarkable and important view on the sexual revolution in the 60s, which is that most people of his generation, most older people, resented the young. They resented the freedom they had, and actually they pretended the freedom was terrible, and it was always getting lightly. And Philip Larkin, rather surprisingly, he was a very conservative person, took a different view, and he says it in his poem. And the opening of the poem is, he says, "When I see a couple of kids and guess he's fucking her, and she's taking pills or wearing a diaphragm, I know this is paradise. Everyone old has dreamed of all their lives. Bonds and gestures pushed to one side like an outdated combine harvester, and everyone young going down the long slide to happiness endlessly. I wonder if anyone looked at me 40 years back and thought, that'll be the life, no God anymore, or sweating in the dark about hell and that, or having to hide what you think of the priest. He and his lot will all go down the long slide like free bloody birds." And immediately, rather than words, comes the thought of high windows, the sun-comprehending glass, and beyond it the deep blue air that shows nothing and is nowhere and is endless.
The divine. He found it.
He found it in seeing a couple of young kids and knowing that one of them was wearing a diaphragm. Do you see what I mean? It's, first of all, it's very counterintuitive, but secondly, this is the point that sex had been so tied up with misery. I mean, people don't remember this now when they talk about the past. I mean, there's one of my favorite books, Stefan Zweig's The World of Yesterday, including descriptions of what it was like trying to have sex in pre-First World War Vienna. And all the men ended up going to female prostitutes. So many of them got syphilis. And this was their first experience of sex. It was so goddamn awful, and they were stuck with it all their lives. And so there's lots of stuff that's gone better in our last century, and that's one of them. But you ask about love. Yes, I do think that love is basically the thing that gives us the best glimpse of the divine.
And by the way, liberating sex, doesn't buy you love.
No. I mean, it throws in an entirely... It threw in another set of problems.
If there's any meaning on top of all of that, is we like to find problems and solve that as a human species, and sometimes we even create problems. Douglas, thank you for highlighting all the problems of human civilization and giving us a glimmer of hope for the future. This is an incredible conversation. Thank you for talking today. It's a huge honor. Thank you.
It's very kind of you to say that. Thank you.